Hi, I'm Jackie Tantillo, and this is Should Have Listened to My Mother. Having a loving relationship with our mother is special and priceless. It can become the cornerstone of who we are, why we think and behave in a certain way, why we cook, dance, or reflect similarly. If we're lucky enough to have had a role model in our mother, it seems to make life and its trials and tribulations that much easier to handle because she influenced us on how to handle the curveballs thrown our way. We find strength when there's doubt. In 2019, my guest, Kristina Lucia's mother, died rather suddenly from cancer, and that special relationship, though severed physically, is irreplaceable. Yet we all have ways of keeping that love alive, including writing letters to our deceased loved ones on special occasions. Somehow we feel better by putting our feelings down on paper and sharing it with others, as though we're sharing it out loud without raising our voices. In May of 2022, my guest posted a letter to her late mom on Instagram. She wrote, "Yes, May will always be Robert Redford movie month," with a little smile face. "Mom, I love you and always will. I believe the best gift I can give is to continue to smile and live life fully every day. I promise I won't let you down." The door of curiously curated creations of Kristina Lucia opened upon her receiving a sign from her mom. The journey began in November 2019. Here to share stories of her mother and her grandmother, both of which have played an integral role in her life, is Kristina Lucia. Welcome to Should Have Listened to My Mother.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to be here.
In 2021, I think you wrote your mom as well. And it just makes us feel better, doesn't it? It just makes us feel better.
It does, and her anniversary was Sunday, November 6th, and it's always a hard day, and I choose to write a letter to her on those days too. And one of our favorite movies and favorite books was Love Story, and I paraphrase the opening lines, "What do you say about a 24-year-old woman who died?" And I paraphrase it to, "What do you say about a woman who died?" And it feels right. It feels right to say that. If I had more time to prepare her eulogy, I actually wanted to open up with those words, which is why I did it that way. I spontaneously said her eulogy because there was miscommunication among my family. And I always joke that, I'm Chanel, I am an overachiever. And so I walked up to the podium and improv my mom's eulogy. And the first words I opened up with is, "I promised my mom I'd be positive if you give me a minute." And I know my mom shook her head and was like, "That little devil." She took my words and she twisted it.
Is that something she would encourage or would say?
Well, actually, I found out she was stage 4 lung cancer in a room full of doctors and nurses and one of my siblings and my father. I was literally backed into a corner. There was probably like 12 to 14 different medical physicians and nurses in the room, including both my sibling and one of my siblings and my dad. And I had no idea she was that severe. And I broke down and I was stuck in the back and I couldn't get out of the room. And when I finally could get out of the room, I went to the nurse. I said, "Is there a way that I can call and get information?" My family, I respect that my family's stressed. Like, I don't want to aggravate people with information. And then I walk in the room, and I'm from an Italian family, and my mom does the wave. And I swear to God, it's like in our genes. We all do it. Like, we all do the motion. And I just like toddle and follow like a Pavlov's dog.
The hand in front of the face. The hand in front of the face.
It is like, come here. And I'm like, what did I do this time? Because I'm the oldest, and they're always hardest on the oldest, and always hardest on the girl. And she wrote, "Negativity is not good." And I was a good daughter. I looked her in the eyes, said, "Okay, Mom, I got it." And so that's why I twisted it to, my mom told me to be positive.
Oh my gosh.
Because I knew she was scared. And I know my mom well enough to know that she didn't especially me, she didn't like, I speak for all of us, but I speak for myself personally, and that she didn't, I know for me, she didn't like me to see her when she was vulnerable. She wasn't comfortable with vulnerability. And so that's also my way of respecting her, but it's also my way of teasing her. And I know my grandma was chuckling too. And my grandma's like, "This is your daughter." My mom's like, "No, this is your granddaughter." Because I'm actually my grandma's namesake. That's why I'm a Lucia. That's why I'm Kristina Lucia. I'm named after grandma. And when I went to Italy this summer, it was my third time. And I swear it was my mom that sent me there, because in the Piazza, I had this epiphany. I was like, oh my gosh, mom kept her promise to me, because we always said we travel together, but one way or another, it didn't work out for various reasons. And when I was there, I was like, oh my gosh, she's here with me. Because everything worked out so beautifully. It was such an amazing trip. But of course, when I went shopping and they had the accessory that I really wanted, I know my mom was like, "This is your grandmother." I don't like to shop. Like, I just know my mom's like, "No, it's your grandmother." She really genuinely hated to shop. And I love to shop just like my grandma. And she's like, "Your grandmother went with you, not me."
Is this your maternal grandmother?
My maternal grandma. Yeah. Lucia. Yeah.
And what is your mom's name?
My mom's name is Linda Marie. Yeah. My sister actually has my mom's middle name, and I have my grandma's middle name.
And how many siblings do you have?
I have a sister and I have a brother.
You are the oldest, so you kind of,
yes,
your mom was relying on you for assistance too, I'm sure, as the other kids came around. You were her helper, her first baby, that firstborn kind of role.
Absolutely.
And did your grandmother live with you guys or spend a lot of time with you growing up?
She spent a lot of time with us. And the beauty of my grandma is that she has told me in angel ratings that I was her favorite. And in all fairness, she loved all of us equally. Like, there's no doubt about that. She was very fair to all of us. But in all fairness, because of the way I fell in the mix, I'm in the middle of the grandkids and I'm the oldest in my family. She was able to be the grandma she wanted to be with me. That's my impression of it, meaning that my mom was only 45 minutes away, whereas my other cousins were in a completely other state. Whereas with me, she was seeing me multiple times a week. I am a dancer. I am an artist. My grandma always wanted to dance. So my grandma and I had a lot of similarities, and we also have very similar personalities in some ways. And like, we gravitate towards certain things. So like, in all fairness, like, I kind of took after her subtly in an innate way. So I do have a very special bond with my grandma. She really was and she was a piece of work. One story that I've been telling people, because I see how I am in my life and how determined I am. So my grandma was a speed demon. And she would either talk away out of tickets because her cousins were cops and she would drop their names, or if she did get a ticket, she'd walk into her brother's office. Now, keep in mind, my Uncle Joe was the Supreme Court Justice of Rhode Island, and she would march into his office and put the ticket down. And he would yell at her. And then he would either write it up or pay it. And I was like, that's my namesake, people. I'm like, just warning you. And this is the Supreme Court, like, highest level law in the state. And she would just march in. It was still her baby brother. Take care of it. So,
oh my gosh, this is very funny. She is a piece of work, this Lucia. So she's Italian, your mother, correct?
Yeah, American Italian, born on U.S. soil, but Italian in every way you can imagine. I mean, and I've inherited a lot of those. Like, we make our own pastas. We don't call tomato sauce. We call it gravy. We make our own gravy. We make the Italian cookies. So it's sacrilege to not make anything from scratch. And we have all emotions. Like, when we're feisty, we're like, what's the matter with you? Like, what are you doing? Like, what's the matter?
Oh my goodness.
Hands, yeah.
Did your mom grow up? You mentioned your grandmother loving to dance. Did your mom grow up in the arts?
So actually, she didn't. She did, but not in the way she wanted. My grandma always wanted to dance ballet and was never allowed to, or there weren't the funds to. So when my mom and aunt came along, my grandma put them in ballet lessons, and my mom hated it.
How come?
Her teacher was very strict, and also my mom wanted to tap dance. She wanted to tap so badly, and my grandma said no. And So when I started dancing and I was drawing, like there was always kind of that friction between the two of us in that like, and that she supported it, but she was always like, well, I don't have your talent. I didn't have the opportunity or things like that. So it's kind of it does make me sad that she thinks that, because my mom was creative in her own way. I mean, she was a beautiful sewer. I mean, she made us some really beautiful Christmas and Easter dresses when we were kids. I mean, she made my communion dress, which became my sister's communion gown. She made suit jackets for my brother. I mean, she really did beautiful work. And so it does make me sad that she had this very strong definition on creativity, because she was creative, but she has had this set mindset of like, nope, I'm not creative. Like I can't do this, so I'm not creative. And it's kind of a shame, but again, I need to respect that that was her story and that was the way she saw it. And, but she was, if you ask me, I believe my mom was a creative woman.
Did she have self-confidence?
You know, to be honest, she did struggle with that. My mom unfortunately suffered from a lot of anxieties and narcissism as well. And it would affect her, and that would make her very insecure. And it really is a shame. And it really is painful to think of, in the sense that she was very charismatic. You know, she had a smile that could really light up a room. I mean, she had this laugh that was just amazing. I mean, she really had a beautiful, beautiful soul and a really big heart. Having a parent that went through that and respecting that who they are in heaven is who I wanted here. Like, I do struggle with that. And that's where, when I write those letters to her, or I write blogs about us, I focus on that she's safe, and I focus on that she's her best version of herself, and loving her is respecting her. And it's always respecting her choices and knowing that she did love me. She loved all of us very, very much. And I'll always love her. There'll always be a space for that love.
You have to kind of distinguish between not two different people, but someone that's able to, even though they love you, they can't always give that love. It's like this conflict. Did you feel that conflict where you knew that she was able to love you, but she wasn't always able to express it? Or was that only until you were an adult?
As an adult, I had the opportunity to start my healing journey. And as I'm in my healing journey, because your healing journey is like never ending, which is the beauty of it, I feel. There's a phrase that used to trigger me really badly, but now I understand it, is that she was doing the best of what she had. You know, I recognize that she was working to be the best version of herself every day. And I realized that I recognized that we weren't communicating many times because of the struggles that she was personally dealing with. And I do believe there was love. There was always love there. I just, unfortunately, I think the other things buried it. And it is hard some days, but at the same time, like the last words we ever exchanged to each other were, "I love you." And it's funny because our biggest fight was that I didn't become a school teacher, because she was a teacher and she wanted me to be a teacher just like her. Because, you know, my sister followed her steps, my cousins, my aunt, everyone's a teacher, a lawyer or an engineer. And then there's me. And we used to fight about it. And other family members would side with her and gang up on me and say, "Kristina, you should do what your mom says." And I said, "No, I'm not." And I do laugh because I laugh about it now, because I said, well, you know, Mom and I reached a compromise. I'm writing a children's series, illustrating a children's series. And I do believe that she and my grandma are with me in this moment as we're recording. I believe they're with me every step of this process, because I know my mom wanted the absolute best for me and everybody else. And I think she's proud. And something else that I can share is like by going through my healing process and learning to respect her and understanding that even though in the moment the love it may seem like there wasn't love, there was always love. I made the decision to take a pen name on. And I was at my sister's house, and it was me, my sister, and her little boy, my nephew. And my sister was the first person I told that I'm using our mother's maiden name as my pen name. And so my legal name is Kristina Lucia Andrews. But I decided that my pen name, which will appear on all my books, is Kristina Lucia Pisa. So that way it's me, mom, and grandma in every book. And again, I know my mom.
The best.
And
That's
yeah,
great.
and I know my mom is whispering in my ear, like, good, your grandmother is before me. You know she'll have a fit. Like, you can't just forget about your grandma. I'll never hear the end of it. Like,
oh my goodness. It's so hard. And did she ever talk to anyone about her anxiety, or did she ever get help? Did your grandmother and mother ever talk openly with you? Did your grandmother come to you and put her arm around you because she saw how your mom was handling you? How did that hold the dynamics between the three of you work?
You know, that actually happened a lot where my grandma was the one that was compassionate towards me. She was the one that would be more easier on me. With my mom, you know, I actually brought up to her before, like a couple of months before we found out how ill she was, because something happened within my family and all the blame fell on me, which was pretty typical, although it was not my fault. Something happened. And my mom had an anxiety attack in front of me again. I saw it before, and I rubbed her back and I just gently said, Mom, why are you not considering speaking to someone? Not telling her you should, just why, you know, just gently nudging, because I didn't want to push her away, but I knew I couldn't save her either. And she told me, no, I don't need that. I have people I could talk to, etc. And I tabled it because I think based on my therapy work that I've done, work that I'm currently doing, I realized that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink it.
Absolutely.
And I really wanted to respect my mom. You know, when I went, part of the reason why I started going to therapy, and therapy led me to my other healing work. And I am proud of myself. And my mom actually said something to me too, where she said to me, it was basically like one of my favorite Christmas movies is It's a Wonderful Life. So if you think of George and his dad at the table, you know, talking over things, we had a conversation similar to that where my mom said, you're stronger and you're going to go a lot further. And stronger is not always easier, and going further isn't always easy. But I realized there were moments where my mom would recognize, you have a gift. And when I got my sign from her, I knew it was her way of saying, I need you to do this. I need you to do this for me and Grandma.
Yeah, well, you were achieving and doing things that she wasn't capable of doing mentally and emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's also what my cousins, my mom's cousins that, you know, grew up with her have shared with me. They said, Kristina, you know, your mom, this is also where I realized I took compassion for my mom, is that, you know, my mom, although she was outgoing, she was also shy. And I am overly creative. I am a free spirit. And again, my mom found comfort and control. That's where she felt safe and whatnot. And then you have a kid like me that's free spirited, overly creative, and, you know, ready to take on the world. And so in all fairness, I did throw my mom a lot of curveballs, and
I bet you did.
I did. And oh yeah. And there were times where my mom's cousin actually said to me, you know, sometimes I would sense jealousy that you had this courage that your mom didn't. And again, it makes me sad when I hear that, because I would have I love my mom. My mom was my first love. She'll always be one of the many loves in my life. And, it did make me sad that her anxieties prevented us from doing certain things when she was in this life. But I think it's important to acknowledge the trauma. I think it's important to acknowledge the dysfunction. But I also feel the healing is equally as important, because it's showing that we do have a choice. And again, my mom's choice was to raise the best kids she could possibly raise. And, and she did that.
It's not your fault, and you're not to be held responsible or accountable for her own issues. And good for you for trying to always keep moving forward and to heal, because number one, it's all in the past, right? So to dwell on it is only going to hold you back, and that's not going to be useful. Embrace the good stuff, and it's unfortunate that she had to deal with what she was dealing with, but kudos to you for going toward the light, as they say.
Yeah.
And it's, generationally too, there was a lot that went on that no one ever said anything about their feelings or their emotions, whether it's all the soldiers that went to war and the women that couldn't do what they really wanted to achieve, right? They couldn't even stinking vote. But now we know it's all different. And all of our past, the people of our past, have enabled us, given us the freedoms for who we are today and what we can reach for, whether it's a man, woman, or a child. If we didn't have everyone struggling in the past and climbing mountains in the past for us, we wouldn't be where we are today. We might be in a little bit of a stumble at times, but we have to be thankful.
No, I totally agree, because both my grandparents, they both lost siblings during the influenza pandemic. They were both raised in the height of the Great Depression. They both had, I don't think my grandfather, I can't remember if my grandfather served. I don't think he did, but no, my grandfather did not serve in the war, but he actually got displaced from his home, meaning that when he was 14, he was moved from Rhode Island to New York and put to work because the families needed to survive.
Sure.
And my two great uncles, they went into the service. My Uncle Bob actually lied about his age so he could go in at 16. And so there was a lot, and I realized with my mom too, is to reiterate what you said, when she graduated in the early 70s, she only had three choices: teacher, secretary, or nurse. And she chose teacher. And, then she went on and had three kids, two girls and a boy. And, and my sister and I had this plethora of choices, and so I totally agree with what you said. And when I was in Italy this year, again, it was my third time. So I've been to Tuscany a couple of times on these trips, and I'm so amazed by the beauty. And I also think of, my family's only been in this country for about 100 years, maybe slightly less. And I felt this gratitude for them, these relatives that I hadn't met, these relatives that I do know in my life, because to have the courage to leave your homeland and start new somewhere else, I wonder if they didn't do that, would I have these opportunities I'm having right now? And I just felt this gratitude, and I felt this gratitude being able to have the opportunity to go back and appreciate these places in the world that are just so beautiful. And looping back to my mom, that was part of what was so beautiful about this trip too, because some of my mom's anxieties were fear of heights. She had fear of water. And one of the places I was this year was Cinque Terre. And for people that have been there, it's all mountains. I think the beaches are beautiful.
It's extraordinary. It's really extraordinary. Right?
Yes. And I just thought, oh my God, Mom can climb the trails with me. she has no anxiety of heights anymore. Like she can follow me, because God is holding her. And then when I went into the ocean, how it's all rocks, I used to kind of like just get in there. And I thought, oh my gosh, mom can swim with me. And, she's not afraid of the rocks because she's robbed of, she's free of that. Again, God's holding her and grandma's supporting her, and, she's with her loved ones. And it was really beautiful because like I thought of that because I love Cinque Terre. I adored it. I thought it was such a fun area of Italy to visit. Highly recommend it. And it's really magical. Like it really was just so magical.
Speaking of magical, Bella is adorable. I want you to talk to us about Curiously Curated Creations. Tell us about the message and the meaning about your little beauties.
Yes, thank you so much. So the main character of the series is Bella Lucia, and Bella Lucia is actually my inner child. Bella is actually a nickname I have. I have several people in my life that call me Bella. And the mission of the series is communication between parents and children. And I focus on that because when we're able to identify for our feelings and communicating with each other, we're able to acknowledge and get down to the why. Like, for example, like if milk spills off the table and one of us throws a fit, it probably isn't about the milk. It's probably about something else. And if we're able to identify for that ourselves, and if we're able to recognize it and take a pause and communicate with the other person, how different would our life be? And my storybooks, I'm actually working on the first 5 right now. The first of the 5, the first 3 are coming out in spring 2023. Super excited about that. And in each series, in each book, Bella goes through a transition or a skill that we all learn. And her parents give her the space to express the negative feelings, and they guide her through it with the help with giving her a special gift that serves as a tool for her to overcome it. And the beauty is she's able to share her findings and share her joy with another friend by helping them through something. And I did name the characters after certain people in my life. I am an aunt, so Caleb Giraffe is after my nephew. Like I said, Bella's me. But one of the characters that helps her, it's her parents, and then her special Aunt Sue. And Aunt Sue is actually my mom's best friend since high school. And so that was really important to me.
Just so everyone understands, these are beautifully crocheted stuffed animals.
Oh, yes. Yes. So I have the
should mention that.
Oh, I do. I've mentioned that too. Thank you for reminding me. So I have the storybooks, which I write and illustrate. And then I also create the coloring books. And then I crochet a stuffed version and a lovey version of all the characters as well, in addition to even more characters, which haven't made it in the series yet.
How do people get in touch with you?
Yes, my website is www.cccokl.com. And I do have a special gift for your audience. I always create freebies, so I would love to share that with them. I always have a goodie for you guys, so I would love for you to have that too.
Give the website again so they can
www.cccokl.com.
Thank you so much, Kristina, Lucia. I love your name.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to keeping in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And we'll be back next week with another episode of Should Have Listened to My Mother.